Hi, I'm Asta Agarwal, and today we are going to discuss the question, should the U.S. regulate factory farming? What factory farming means in the U.S. is a large industrial operation that uses animals as commodities to maximize agribusiness profit. Animals are kept in concentrated environments where they often come into conflict with each other and have a lack of resources. Mutilation is used to prevent conflict, such as the one between the turkeys at the top of this page. Turkeys are debeaked to prevent conflict in the space that they are given, which is less than one paper size per turkey. Force feeding and growth hormones are used to inflate animals to abnormal sizes that often result in deformity and prevent them from being able to stand. 80% of the antibiotics in the US are used for farm animals, 90% of which are merely to assist their weight gain and growth and to help them survive the harsh conditions they face in factory farms. Factory farms are used for several animals in the animal agriculture system, over 99%. We are going to focus on chickens in the egg industry to take a look at the conditions that they face on factory farms. Male chicks are killed right away on kill plates where they are electrocuted. Females are debeaked, losing much of their nervous system, which causes chronic pain. 95% of hens spend their lives in battery cages where they have little floor space, resulting in feather loss and bruises. Artificial increases in egg production have resulted in the average hen producing 250 chicks annually today, as opposed to 100 a century ago. Force molding is used to keep hens hungry for extended periods of time to force them into another cycle of reproduction. Chickens are considered spent after 1 to 2 years in factory farms and are murdered in full consciousness, as opposed to the 5 to 8-year natural lifespan they would have otherwise lived. Factory farming has immense consequences on our environment. Animal waste pollutes air, water, and soil, releasing methane and hydrogen sulfide into the air and our waterways and contributing to global warming. Contaminants such as salt, hydrogen sulfide, and methane are not processed for sanitation and are released into lagoons, large lakes containing animal waste and water. These lagoons take up a vast amount of storage space in our world and are used to spray cropland, where excess nutrient buildup then reduces fertility and essentially wastes the cropland permanently. Factory farming also has a very adverse impact on human health. The excess use of antibiotics for farm animals creates pathogen resistance and creates bacteria resistant to antibiotics, which has a negative impact on antibiotic use for humans. About 700,000 full and part-time workers, many of which are undocumented, are exposed to harmful gases and waste, particulate animal matter that causes breathing and cardiovascular problems and stress injuries. Many of the undocumented workers are less likely to complain about low wages and terrible working conditions. Workers whose tasks include teeth clipping, notching, and cutting parts of tails and male castration face anguish, and undercover investigations have shown that these workers are prone to beating, stomping, and fighting with these animals and expressing unnecessary cruelty on factory farms. Over 99% of farm animals in the US are raised on factory farms. Factory farming is considered a legal standard practice in the US. There is a false advertising image of the American farm, which we envision when we buy products in stores, but this simply is not true. There is an inefficient use of food and water. A disproportionate amount of food is fed to farm animals so that a small amount of animals may be fed to humans. We will discuss this further in the upcoming video.
Animals are fed about 6 kilograms of plant protein to produce just 1 kilogram of animal protein. The numbers just don't add up. Factory farms use more food than they produce, which leaves less food for everyone else. At a time when globally nearly 1 billion people are suffering from malnutrition, 1/3 of the world's edible cereal harvest is being fed to farm animals. That cereal would be enough to feed about 3 billion people. Everyone from leading water and climate scientists to Oxfam and World Vision, and even the United Nations agree that by eating less meat, we can reduce pollution, save resources, and combat world hunger.
There is no federal law regulating factory farming in the U.S. Factory farms are excluded from state animal protection laws as standard agricultural practice, meaning they are effectively legal. 1873, there was a 28-hour law passed that required animals being transported in extreme heat and cold to be let out every 28 hours to breathe. This law, however, is very poorly enforced and rarely followed. The Human Methods of Livestock Slaughter Act requires animals to be fully unconscious before being slaughtered. These laws exclude birds, however, who make up over 90% of animals killed for food. The U.S. government also provides grain subsidies only to confined animal feeding operations, or CAFOs, aka factory farms. Open pastures and farming as we envisioned a century ago do not receive these subsidies. In Europe, however, the European Union has banned gestation crates for female pigs, veal crates for calves, and battery cages for egg-laying hens. Calves are required to have enough room to turn around and sufficient iron and fiber in their diets. England and other nations have increased the required amperage for stunning these animals into unconsciousness to ensure that animals are actually unconscious when slaughtered. Norway has put in place an Animal Welfare Act that bans scalding, skinning, and plucking before death and requires animals to be killed out of sight of other animals. Legislation in the U.S. to regulate factory farms goes through the Farm Bill, which is passed every few years by Congress. The King Amendment, proposed by Republican Stephen King in the House last year, would have repealed state protections against animal cruelty, including intensive confinement. Fortunately, the King Amendment failed the Senate, thanks to lobbying by the Humane Society, American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, and other animal protection groups. However, there remains a huge lack of awareness and federal protection against animal cruelty in factory farms. This is thanks to a huge agribusiness lobby, which has budgets incomparable to those of animal protection groups, effectively placing factory farming in the hands of interest groups in our government. In conclusion, the U.S. should regulate factory farming. 99% of farm animals are mutilated, confined, and deprived of the lifestyle they would have in the open. Sustainable farms will use animal waste as a tool rather than as a pollutant and not add to contamination. We will stop increasing pathogen resistance through the absurd amount of antibiotics that are used on farm animals. We will improve workers' conditions, increase efficiency, and provide more food for humans. We will be on our way to addressing world hunger. By implementing a gradual process to the success that we have seen in Europe, we can reduce animal cruelty and our health and lifestyle for humans in the United States. Thank you.